Did you recently eat what you thought was white tuna, but suddenly experience some severe digestive pains? You might have actually eaten a fish called escolar, a species that was referred to in a recent newspaper article as the X-lax fish. Or maybe you ordered grouper, but instead got king mackerel. Hope you're not pregnant. Federal and state authorities warn women of childbearing age not to eat king mackerel because of its high mercury levels. If either of these things happen to you, you have been a victim of fish fraud, which according to a recent study by the ocean conservation group, Oceana, happens in some communities more than 50% of the time when people order fish. Hello, I'm Jason Huffman, Editor-in-Chief of Food Chemical News, and you're watching The Knife and Fork Show. Returning to talk with us about this confounding issue is Lisa Weddick, the National Fisheries Institute's Director of Regulatory and Technical Affairs, and also Secretary of the Better Seafood Board, a group whose mission is to stop seafood fraud. Lisa, what's going on?
Seafood fraud is certainly a big issue for the members of the National Fisheries Institute and the seafood community as a whole. We want consumers to enjoy the seafood meals they eat, and we want them to get the value that they're paying for out of the seafood that they purchase.
Businesses usually want less regulation, but that's not been your organization's position, correct? You want more regulation.
Well, I wouldn't say we want more regulation, we want more enforcement.
Okay.
We have plenty of regulations out there. There's plenty of laws and regulations that deal with misbranding food, misrepresenting food for the consumer. We just need more enforcement of those regulations that we currently have.
Okay. So what are the common types of fish that most often get mislabeled? What am I typically going to buy that I think I might be getting, but I might be getting something else?
Well, where we see most of the mislabeling, or species substitution is what it's called often, are for fish that are more, I would say premium or more valued fish, like grouper, which is iconic in the South, or red snapper. Those are fish that people go out to eat and they want to order that. They're fairly expensive to purchase, so those are the species that are more likely to be substituted for. And it's generally a less expensive fish that might represent those.
Can you give me a few examples of the fish that are most commonly being substituted for the premium fish I think I'm buying?
I think we see oftentimes red snapper might actually be tilapia.
Tilapia, okay. I like tilapia though.
Tilapia is a good fish. I mean, there's no reason to sell it as something else. It's in the top 10 list of species that we consume, so it's certainly out there being sold as tilapia as well.
Where does the fraud most commonly take place? Who's making the switch most often?
That's a difficult question to answer, and I think if we knew that answer, it would be easier to have enforcement. It can happen really anywhere along the value chain. It can happen at the distributor, wholesale level, or it could even happen at the retailer or at the restaurant level.
Is that why this is so difficult to enforce?
It is difficult to enforce, and I think how fish are named is also kind of confusing. You wouldn't think that that would be that confusing.
Oh, some of these labels, the names of the fish are in Latin, correct?
They're in Latin. I mean, all fish have a Latin name, but they also have an acceptable market name that FDA has come up with. So there are lists available. FDA maintains a list. I couldn't even
tell you one of the Latin names, but I imagine that someone who's at a restaurant who gets a package of fish that has the Latin name goes, oh yeah, red snapper.
Yeah. No, I don't think they would be able to do that. Well, some would probably be able to do that. But that's why FDA requires that we label our fish with the common market name, which is easy to find. They maintain a list on the website, so there's really no reason to misrepresent the fish on the label.
So the FDA has actually been studying this issue and says they want to do more.
Correct.
And this is something you guys have been asking for. They used to do a study of about 100 samples a year, and they said about a year ago they were going to do, in 2012, about 1,000 samples. They were going to look for fish fraud. I actually contacted the FDA right before I came in, and I asked for a status report. Apparently in the fiscal year of 2012, ending in September, they did about 800 samples at about 100 different wholesalers. They're not yet releasing the results. What do you expect they're going to find?
I think they'll see some mislabeling, And their program was based on DNA testing, so they were actually sampling the fish, determining the
Right,
DNA to
right.
see if it matched.
That's what they have to do to determine what kind of
Yes.
fish it is, right?
Right, it's hard to tell what a fish is once it's filleted and all
And
you
once
see
it's
is
been
the
cooked,
portion.
it looks like the other kind of fish.
Right, so it's very challenging. So with this DNA testing, they'll be able to identify or match that DNA to what they have in their database.
There's also an effort legislatively to address this issue, correct? Can you talk a little bit about some of the legislation that's been thrown around?
Well, the legislation, there's two pieces of legislation, one on the House side and one on the Senate side. And they both try to address the combating fraud with more regulation. And we certainly can't support the need for more regulation because,
Okay.
like I said, there's plenty of regulations and laws already out there. And we really see the way to stop this problem is with more enforcement. More enforcement will certainly send the message that this type of activity can't be condoned. And a lot of legislation out there is duplicative to what we already have.
Okay.
There's no
So
point
you don't actually like the bills that have been put forth?
Not the way they're presented right now. I mean, we don't need NOAA to have a fish list. FDA already has a fish list, so there's no need for both agencies to do the same piece
Well, I
of
was
work.
going to ask you what you actually want to see, specifically want to see, and I think you just told us that you want to see more enforcement.
More enforcement. And I don't think it'll take a lot of enforcement. I mean, once the message is out there, it's pretty easy to stop some of the action. It's like, the red light cameras and the speed cameras. People don't speed when they when they see those there. But when the cameras are gone, they're back to their speeding down the road. So
Yeah. Now, as I was preparing for this interview, and I wound up writing a story about this topic in a little Pure and Food Chemical
Okay.
News. And one of the reasons why I'm going to be writing about it is because as I was preparing for this, Barbara Boxer apparently has put forth or has sent a letter to the FDA, the commissioner, asking for a stepped-up enforcement and asking a lot of questions, basically about what is the FDA doing here? Are they looking into this? What are they doing about it? And that was in response to the Oceana study that I mentioned
Yes.
at the top. There have been a lot of studies, though. A year ago, there was a study done by Consumer Reports and another study done by the Boston Globe. And each one of these studies, they find really high rates of this fish fraud in these different markets. Can't be good for the seafood business.
no, I mean, it's never good news to hear that your product's being misrepresented in the marketplace. But each of these studies, I think, helps raise the awareness that there is a problem. And it helps educate the whole supply chain. So restaurants now understand that they could be held responsible if they're the one who is mislabeling the fish. Because you do see that. If you look at the menu and they're selling grouper, but you don't see any grouper in the back room, well, something is wrong.
If you were talking to consumers about how to avoid, I mean, we talked about some of the health issues that could come up here, right? They sound kind of dangerous. If you were talking to consumers about how they could avoid buying the wrong fish, what could you tell them? What would you tell them to do?
The consumers need to know who they're buying the fish from. They need to talk to their retailer to understand where they're buying the fish from. And if you look at the fish that are being tested in these studies, they're not the top 10 fish that consumers can consume. And if
I've seen that you guys have put those
yeah,
numbers.
we maintain a top 10
I
list
love
every
that
year.
list. Is it always shrimp at the top?
Shrimp is number one,
And
you never see
tuna's
shrimp.
number two.
You never see shrimp being misrepresented. in
Right,
these
shrimp is shrimp.
studies.
What could
So
they replace shrimp with?
I don't know. It's
Something
shrimp.
that really looks like shrimp, maybe prawn.
So if you enjoy shrimp, you shouldn't worry about the product being misrepresented. If you enjoy canned tuna, you shouldn't worry about the product being misrepresented.
Tuna's not an expensive type of fish typically.
Right, and the white tuna that you mentioned earlier,
Right.
that's sold mainly in sushi restaurants, and the only fish that can be called white tuna is albacore tuna.
I see.
So if it's escolar being sold as white tuna, that's against FDA's regulations.
Are you familiar with the fish escolar?
I haven't tried it, but I am familiar.
I don't think I want to try it after what I read about
I
it.
understand it's very good and people enjoy it, and that's why it's so popular in sushi restaurants.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
If you eat it in small quantities, it's
It might be helpful. Well, that's it. We're out of time. I want to thank Lisa Wettig from the National Fisheries Institute for appearing on 2 episodes of the Knife and Fork Show. We'll be back soon and put another personality from the world of food regulation in the spotlight. If you ever have trouble finding our most recent Knife and Fork Show episodes, simply go to www.foodchemicalnews.com. Thanks, Lisa.
You're welcome. My pleasure.